Please edit that out. Do not put that on YouTube.
Listen, welcome everyone to the inaugural Dads of Dagobah episode of 2021. Sean, how was your New Year's?
New Year was great. I can't remember New Year's. That was 7 years ago. What happened on New Year's? Is this a trick question?
No, nothing happened. I had a great New Year's too. Thank you for asking. We are back for another episode. Today, we are joined by none other than the Queen Bee himself, Shane Kaysen.
Hey guys.
No, it's not the Queen Bee.
Show. I was going to say I was the first fan, first like, first view, and first subscriber to the channel. So might not be your biggest fan, but I'm definitely your first fan.
Listen, Shane in our friend group is known as the Guru of Greatness.
The Guiding Light.
Also true.
The Shaman of Sexy.
The Queen Bee.
Stretching it a little bit now, but we're getting there.
And while he was our first fan, I would say, Joseph, nobody that we personally know has lobbied more than this man to get on to Dads of Dagobah.
I think Kyle has lobbied a few more times, but Kyle doesn't know much about Star Wars, so he's not even going to watch this.
That's right, but we have a spicy topic for you tonight. And Shane, actually before we get started, Shane, why don't you show everybody your entry application that you created to convince us to allow you on the podcast.
You won us over.
All right, gents. So I created a fan page, the first entry into the official Dads of Dagobah fan page. Notice the O is Boba Fett's helmet, so that was a pretty magnificent touch, if I do say so myself, for Dodd.
Yeah, he asked us who our favorite Star Wars characters were, and I said Qui-Gon Jinn, and Sean said Admiral Raddus.
It was really an impulse answer, and after the Mandalorian episode season finale, I realized it's Luke Skywalker. It always has been Luke Skywalker, but I felt like it was too easy of an answer, so I said Raddus to try to sound edgy and cool. Huge mistake.
Hey, really frustrating. It had two different generational Jedi with different lightsabers there, but you know, it is what it is. We have Mon Calamari instead.
Coming up with answers that seem a little bit edgy, Sean, I feel like will be a theme we will see throughout the night tonight as we go through our top 5 villains of Star Wars. So Shane wanted to come on. Shane knows his Star Wars very well. We wanted to make sure that we set some ground rules, so here they are. It's got to be from canon. And that's it. That's the only ground rule. So no Clone Wars, original Clone Wars, no Legends, no, Knights of the Old Republic, I guess, no.
Prequel or post-quel sequels.
Right. There we go. I feel like what we should do here is we each have a top 5 list. Maybe we should each start with our 5s and then go down to 4s and 3s and 2s and 1s. So I'm going to put our names into a random number generator. Boop, 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 boop. Sean, you came up. Give us your number 5 of the top 5 villains of Star Wars.
Listen, should we start though with an honorable mention?
Sure.
I have an honorable mention that didn't crack my top 5, but it needs to be discussed. And that is the one, the only, General Jar Jar Binks. All right?
Are we getting started again with this?
Listen, let me just say
I've listened long enough to this garbage.
I need you to know that there are clear signs, especially in The Phantom Menace, that Jar Jar does use the Force. His drunken fist wushu, martial arts techniques, okay? He can force leap and force jump like a regular Jedi, all right? We don't see any other Gungans doing things like that. He, with the wave of his hand, Jedi mind tricks the entire Republic Senate, Galactic Senate, and gives the Chancellor emergency powers, single-handedly giving Palpatine enough power to overthrow the Republic. All right?
Listen, that is your one point that I agree with. He did give emergency powers. So that piece of evidence I agree with. Nothing else.
So how does bumbling idiot from a race, the most bumbling idiot among the race of bumbling idiots, trick the Senate, stands the Force? I'm with Sean on this one.
Yeah, it was all an act. And first of all, the only reason he's an honorable mention and not officially in my top 5 is because George Lucas chickened out and didn't reveal it, and it didn't come to fruition in Revenge of the Sith.
So you're telling me if George Lucas got his wish, then we'd be having Episode 9, Jar Jar Binks come back from the dead and lead the Siths on Exegol, huh? And Rey would be a Binks?
Yeah, yes. I'm going to say yes.
Well, there we have it, folks. I don't think we could have jumped a shark any more than just right now.
Okay, let me get into my real top 5. Are you ready for this? Number 5. This character, I could see how somebody might scratch their head, but I think a lot of people agree that this is a good villain, a good solid number 5. It's not the best villain, but deserves some recognition. I'm going with the gangster, the leader of the criminal underworld at one point in time, Jabba the Hutt. And you can look at my background right here, all right? Jabba's palace. This dude, especially, Return of the Jedi speaks for itself. He's menacing. He's a big slug thing that is scary. Nobody understands a word he's saying. And yet, even though you don't know what he's saying, you figure, yeah, this guy has enough power with the wave of his hand or the push of his button next to him, because he doesn't have a lot of dexterity. He can really just kind of shift his weight and his hand can come down on a button. Boom. You're falling down into a pit where he keeps his pet Rancor. Okay? Villains, a hallmark of a villain is like animal minion sidekicks. And the Rancor monster, and as far as monster sidekicks go for a villain, the Rancor is up there with the best of all time.
And is Salacious Crumb his kitten that he pets like an evil villain?
Yeah, the whole vibe, the whole thing. Now, obviously, he goes out kind of like a punk, all right? He gets strangled by Leia, which is pretty bad of Leia to do that. But, we see him a little bit in Phantom Menace. He makes appearances in the Clone Wars animated series. I go Jabba the Hutt at my number 5.
That's a good one. Shane, what's your number 5?
All right, fellas. My number 5 is Darth Sidious.
Oh, gosh. That's your 5?
That's my 5. I'm putting it on the board. It's official. Darth Sidious himself, the man is on the board.
I think you're going to get a lot of comments about... I would assume Sean also has him in his 5, but I don't think number 5 is anywhere close to where he should be.
Hear me out, guys. Name me a trait other than evil, conniving, and intelligent that Darth Sidious has.
What else does a villain need?
Nuance. Look, the Joker isn't Batman's greatest villain because he's evil. He's Batman's greatest villain because he's a sick, perverted inversion of the main hero to the story, in this case, Batman. Darth Sidious is not an inversion of any character in it. He's just overall evil because evil, power because power, the dark side because the dark side. He gets punked by Mace Windu in the prequels, even though that's not canon. He gets punked by a burnt-up, crispy Darth Vader, and he goes out like a punk. He gets thrown down a hole.
He goes out like a punk twice, because Rise of Skywalker is even more of a punk exit.
He can't beat a semi-trained Sith and an untrained Jedi. Come on, most powerful Sith, ever. Don't buy it. But Darth Sidious is my number 5. Obviously, he's the big bad. He's the end game in the original trilogy. And for that alone, he merits the number 5. Had Vader and Luke not bonded and had their father-son bonding moment over him torturing and killing one of them, then he wouldn't even be this high. but because he's the catalyst to bring Anakin Skywalker back to the light side of the Force and to once again achieve balance in all things, he is number 5 and no higher.
Wow, that's interesting.
Very interesting take. I think you're wrong, but I respect what you're saying. I do agree with a lot of what you're saying, but those reasons do not diminish his worth as a villain for me. And I will say, my biggest gripe about The Rise of Skywalker is that Palpatine goes through a 30-year hibernation of being dead to come back for 10 minutes, and then he dies again. Like, in terms of the slow burn and playing the long game to become resurrected to his full powers again, he only enjoys that full power for another 5 minutes before he kills himself, basically, with his lightning again. Anytime he uses his lightning, bad things happen. I don't know why he keeps going back to the Force lightning.
It worked against Yoda.
That's the only time it worked.
Listen, not only was he taken down by an untrained Jedi, but it was 2 lightsabers that was his undoing instead of just 1 lightsaber.
And it wasn't just an untrained Jedi. It was all the Jedi.
I hate that movie. Okay, how about my number 5?
Joseph, tell us what you have for number 5.
So mine's kind of, this is kind of my funny answer. I guess your honorable mention is my number 5. So mine is the Jedi Council in general. Because, and obviously I'm kind of being funny with this. Let's talk about it for a reason why they are villains. First of all, they take children away from parents, and they train them in a cult that teaches them to be celibate and is repressive and teaches them that they can't love people. So take that out of context in any other modern day society, that would be, they'd be rated by the FBI, you know? So the Jedi Council is my number 5.
Joseph, you've convinced me. Darth Sidious is no longer number 5. Get him off here. Jedi. We're just going to have the Jedi Council. They're my new number 5. I like it.
Hey, according to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, it was the failings of the Jedi Council that caused the Empire to rise. So, I mean, in a roundabout way, they are the reason for Alderaan blowing up.
It's true. The hubris of the Jedi was their downfall.
Also, they saddled a celibate hormonal teenager to protect Natalie Portman. That was never going to end well, ever.
Yeah, I agree. How about I'll go with my number 4. How about, because my number 4 is Jabba the Hutt. I think he embodies all the 7 deadly sins. You know, he's gluttonous. He's deadly. I can't even name them all. But anyway, he is all of the evil into one giant slimy slug, and also he wastes food. Also evil. So and yeah, I like the he has a pet rancor. I mean, that's just totally awesome. Makes him very evil, and he not only is evil, but he doesn't really have to do much. I always like the villains where you feel like they could be easily overtaken by their underlings at any point, but because they have such control over everyone that everyone's afraid to do anything to them, you know? Anyone could easily choke him out or take a blaster to him. You know, he's not some amazing physical skill person, but he's ultimately undone by Princess Leia herself.
So true. It's all mental. The Hutts are not physically intimidating creatures. I assume they're slow. They don't really. They're kind of got T-Rex arms. They can't really grab you. So it was all the mental control that he had over the people.
Okay, Sean, what's your number 4?
My number 4, speaking of Alderaan, is none other than Grand Moff Tarkin, the I would say the responsible party for the genocide of an entire planet.
Yep.
I mean, I only have him number 4 because he doesn't have all the qualities that I would have in a villain. I mean, name me a quality he has other than cold, calculating, intelligent, evil, genocidal. I mean, he only has those ones. So, I mean, you would have to have a lot more to be higher on this list. But I will say he has a very, a relatively short lifespan in terms of screen time in A New Hope, and yet really that first time you watch the first Star Wars movie, you just think he's such a bad guy. He's a bad guy, you know, and the fact that he blew up Princess Leia's planet in front of her, that was cold, man. And then we get added layers in Rogue One where we get to see him in all his CGI glory, which I still think is pretty good CGI. I like it.
Agreed.
And they set up Orson Krennic to be kind of the villain of that movie. And anytime it's Krennic versus Tarkin, Tarkin's like, "You're a little baby." And
it's not even difficult for him. He's like,
no.
I take control of this station.
He's like, "I'm in charge. If this fails, I'm going to blame you. Oh, you proved that it will work. Okay, now it's mine. Oh, now you're on Scarif. I'm going to blow you up because I know you're down there. And now I'm just going to say that I did this all." Like, the ambition mixed with the cunning and the evil and also in A New Hope, you'll notice when he's in his little room with the rest of the governors, he's kind of got Vader under control too. He can kind of boss Vader around, and Vader listens to him.
I've always wondered about the hierarchy. Is Vader below Tarkin?
See, I always thought that Vader wasn't in the official like org structure of the Empire. I don't think he's got like an administrative role. He's more of like, he's just Lord Vader. He's just kind of like the Emperor's guy, number 2, but he's not in charge of like, well, I don't know actually, because in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, yeah, you're right. I take that back. I don't know. That's a good question.
But I mean,
you know, I never
really
thought about
tell him to release him, right? He tells Vader, "Stop that, release him." You know.
Yeah.
I never really gave thought to the fact that Tarkin is a bureaucrat. Had I realized that, he'd be higher on this list for me.
And that's why we bring Shane in.
So, I agree with Sean on that. I mean, I think Tarkin as a whole was much more menacing than the cackling, hooded, emperor from that aspect. So I kind of see Sean's points on that.
All right, Shane, what do you have for number 4?
I have the huttiest of all huts, Jabba himself. He's now officially taken the spot above Darth Sidious on my list. Tell me a character whose death was more satisfying than Jabba the Hutt's. So the imagery of Leia choking out Hutt, as far as villain deaths go, I think there's not a single death in the entire Star Wars canon. Maybe one, and we'll get to that. More satisfying than Jabba's death at the hands of bikini, potential, issues there with sexual harassment, having her reclaim her power and choking him out with the eyes rolling back in his head, the tongue lolling. Perfect. Pitch perfect. Loved his death. Among the most satisfying scenes in the entire canon.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a more satisfying death, and the only one I can think of is Snoke. But Snoke's isn't really satisfying. It's just surprising and kind of like, oh, that was cool. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm so glad they got him.
Yeah, no, that I agree with all of that, and I'm glad that we all have Jabba on the list. So I mean, that's a 3 for 3. Jabba makes the top 5 Star Wars villains.
That's right. Okay, Shane, start us off with our number 3s.
All right, both of these are victims of recency bias, so disclaimer. I couldn't decide between which one of them to put on my top 5, so I included them both. Maul, not Darth Maul, Maul from the animated series. He who wielded the dark saber originally, and then later Moff Gideon, who came to reclaim the dark saber. So, you know what I said about Jabba the Hutt having the most satisfying death in all of Star Wars? No, that's wrong. He's only superseded by one guy and one guy alone. Maul's death at the hands of old Obi-Wan Kenobi beat it. Sean, I know you watched the animated series. When he finds out that Obi-Wan is protecting Luke, and you realize from the look of it, the voice acting, the body language, and all that good stuff, he sought Obi-Wan out to have Obi-Wan kill him, to end his suffering. Glorious. As he's dying, Obi-Wan takes him out with one move, single stab, catches his body. He figures out that Luke is there, that he's protecting someone, and that Luke is the person to bring balance to the Force. For that, Maul is my number 3. Moff Gideon is a tie, because, guys, The Mandalorian is awesome, and I had to include something from this. So, The Mandalorian, bad guy. Moff Gideon is a G. He had the Darksaber, although he wasn't particularly menacing from a physicality standpoint. His minions were much more menacing. He is my number 3, along with Maul.
You know, you bring up Moff Gideon, and I honestly never thought about Moff Gideon, and I kind of like it because he is a pretty cool bad guy, or villain, but he hasn't really done a whole lot other than kidnap Grogu.
He insults a baby. That's like the most villainous thing you could. Insults, tortures, and shackles a baby.
Well, a 50-year-old, but okay.
It's a baby. That's only one step above killing younglings. All right?
Listen, I was so on board with everything you were saying until you tried to force feed us the lie that Moff Gideon is somehow on any level the same as Maul. In terms of significance to Star Wars, worth as a villain, anything. Like, he's not even close. He shouldn't even be on the list.
Guys, I told you, victim of bias, and I wanted to shoehorn a Mandalorian cameo in this.
I thought you were going to say Cara Dune, but I guess that's can't get into that.
Well, not it's something else. Her actress.
Listen, I do agree with you about the Maul Obi-Wan scene in Rebels. It's super, super great scene. And what's my favorite part of that scene is that Obi-Wan seems once again reluctant to fight Maul until Maul deduces that Obi-Wan is there protecting someone, and Obi-Wan realizes that the secret is out, and then the look in Obi-Wan's eyes is all of a sudden he's like, okay, now I have to kill you.
Yeah. In that scene, Maul realizes, he says, oh, you're protecting someone. And then that's it clicks in Maul's eyes, even though he came there to have Obi-Wan kill him. Obi-Wan is reluctant, and Obi-Wan then realizes, okay, Maul needs to be put down for good. Beautiful scene. Most satisfying death in all of the franchise. The entire series that he was in is worth watching just for that one scene.
Maul is great number 3. Moff Gideon.
I agree.
What are you in?
Joseph, are you doing number 3 or am I doing it?
Yeah. Here's my number 3. I'm also going to do a little slash.
Okay.
So my first one is Anakin, a.k.a. recently dubbed Darth Vader, in the Jedi Temple, killing younglings.
That's a moment, not a character.
Yeah, that's Darth Vader.
Well, I mean, yeah, but he doesn't have the suit on, so it's kind of like it's still kind of Anakin.
I hate
He's
that.
called
I hate
Lord
that
Vader.
reasoning.
And he has the blue lightsaber, so he's not ruined. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about, though. Hey, why you give me thumbs down? Why are you booing me? I'm right. And then my other slash number 3 are the Order 66 clones. The clones after getting Order 66. They're killing Jedi left and right like it's no problem.
They couldn't control it. If anything, your beef is with Sheev Palpatine, all right, who put those inhibitor chips in their heads.
Don't get me. You have to admit the Order 66 troopers are evil and villainous. They're mowing down Jedi like they're younglings in the Jedi Council room. It's so easy. Why are you guys? I don't understand the hate here. Is Darth Vader not on your list?
Oh
You
no,
said
he's on
Anakin
the list.
Skywalker while killing younglings. You like isolated like a 6-second tidbit of the franchise and said, "I want that guy as my number 3."
Well, I think it's pretty evil. Are we? And here's another question: are we going for most evil or most villainous? Because I feel like there's a difference.
I thought it was best Star Wars villains, top 5 Star Wars villains.
Yeah, it's just a subjective opinion. You gave your opinion, and we gave our opinion that you're a poodoo head.
I mean, yeah, you get the opinion, and then I find it subjectively wrong. So
That's fine. That's fine. You put Moff Gideon on your list. So, okay, Sean, what's up? What's up with you?
Well, my number 3 is similar to Shane's. I have Darth Maul as my number 3, and I understand Darth Maul / Maul. I do agree with Shane that most of the character's value obviously comes post Phantom Menace in the animated series, Clone Wars and Rebels, and Solo: A Star Wars Story, one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time.
I was with you, Sean. I have to hop off at the previous station.
First of all, back to Jabba. When they do this Lando series on Disney Plus, it better have Jabba the Hutt in there, and it better have Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich guy in there as Han. But I think Darth Maul, first of all, even in Phantom Menace, he's pretty awesome. I mean, what were we, 10 years old when that came out? 1999, I was 10 years old. Seeing a guy with a black and red face with horns coming out of his head with a double-bladed, dual red lightsaber, I'm like, this is it. This is all you need in a villain. This is the greatest thing. The Duel of the Fates score by John Williams when he's dueling Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It's like one of the best lightsaber battles. He's a great villain. He just exuded evil. Cut down in his prime, I think they definitely could have used him in the episode 2 and episode 3. But I'm glad that George and Dave Filoni brought him back in the Clone Wars and in Rebels and in Solo. He has such a great, rich character arc. He takes over Mandalore. He takes over the criminal underworld. He's the leader of Crimson Dawn, but he also takes out like the Black Sun and takes out some of the other crime syndicates, the Pike Syndicate. He like gets rid of them. I mean, he is everything you want in a villain. My only knock against him, why he's not higher, is because of the retconning that the franchise had to do when they killed him too early, and they're like, actually, we could probably still use this guy. So not a lot of foresight there in how to use the character.
Hey, we really need a villain for episode 2. Why do we kill him off in episode 1? How about this guy?
And then they wasted Christopher Lee, legendary actor, on Dooku, which was like a ho-hum villain character. You're like, this guy is not that awesome.
Yeah. He's 7 million years old. He's not threatening at all. He looks like a strong wind could take him out.
All right, am I doing number 2?
Yeah, start at number 2.
Guys, I don't think anybody can argue, except for you.
Oh, no.
You bozos. I don't think anyone can argue with number 2. A young child playing in the meadows and plains of Naboo, one day growing up to become a senator from Naboo, that would one day grow up to become the Supreme Chancellor, that would one day grow up to become the Emperor of the First Galactic Empire, Sheev Palpatine. Numero dos. Second greatest Star Wars villain. I mean, what more could you want? Name me qualities he has, besides evil, cunning, intelligent, cold, calculating, ambitious, genocidal. I mean, the guy has everything you want in a villain. First of all,
except nuance.
First of all, He puts the capstone on a 1,000-year plot by the Sith to overthrow the Jedi. He is responsible for orchestrating, in part, the Jedi had their own part to play in their own demise, but I mean, he really is the antagonistic force behind the fall of the Galactic Republic, the fall of the Jedi Order, the rise of the Sith being in control of the galaxy. The guy, he's a master manipulator on an individual level, micro and macro. This guy is a villain, all right? We find out, whether we like it or not, for the record, I don't like it, but we find out that he's responsible for all the villains that we see in the sequel trilogy. So you can't have a villain from the sequel trilogy on here without saying, well, that was actually Palpatine. Snoke, actually Palpatine. Kylo, actually manipulated by Palpatine. General Hux, Palpatine. So it's like, okay, Hux fired Starkiller Base and wiped out the entire Hosnian system. Like, no, that was Palpatine, because Palpatine was Snoke, who was the supreme leader of the First Order. So Palpatine, he's got his finger in every pie. Any type of evil regime in the entire galaxy, Palpatine's the puppet master. He's orchestrating that, all right? So, yeah, forget the nuance. I don't care about nuance. The guy is a villain. And he did what he said he was going to do when in the infamous scene in Revenge of the Sith, in the Opera House with Anakin, where he tells Anakin the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, saying that Plagueis was the only one who had cheated death, and he taught his apprentice everything he knew. We see that even though it was only for 5 minutes, Palpatine did cheat death. He died, and he literally, through some sort of unexplained, very vague exposition given to us in Rise of Skywalker, through cloning or Sith black magic, I don't know, he resurrected himself.
And then died.
So I agree with Sean's inclusion of him in the top 5. I don't believe he should be any higher than 5. I really don't.
We know that because you already said you're number 5.
No, but let's do an exercise, and this will be a perfect segue into my number 2.
Do we have to name attributes again?
No, just name me Superman's most powerful enemy.
I don't know.
Who's Superman? He's not his most powerful. He's the most iconic. Huh?
Dr. Octopus.
No. Darkseid or Doomsday, right? Who's ever heard of Doomsday?
Doomsday, yeah. Doomsday.
Doomsday and Darkseid. Darkseid is basically the same character as Palpatine, but when you think of Superman villain, your first inclination is to go to Lex Luthor. Why? Lex Luthor is a perverted mirror of our hero, in this case, Superman. The Joker is a perverted mirror of Batman. Just like my number 2, Boba Fett is a perverted mirror of our boy Han Solo, arguably the second most important hero in the entire franchise.
What?
So Boba Fett is the mirror shadow version of Han Solo. As such, Boba Fett is Shane's number 2.
I am aghast that he is not your number 1.
Even I'm not crazy, Joseph. I might have an undying love for Boba Fett, and I might have extreme bias for how cool of a character he is, but from the moment you see him on screen, he is perfect in every single way, except he gets knocked out by a blind guy and falls into a hole. Take that away, because if I judged that, then we'd have to discount Palpatine based on the sequel trilogy, because that was a flaming hot piece of you-know-what. But Boba Fett is, like Han Solo, could have been Han Solo had the situation been slightly different. Han Solo is among the most beloved heroes in the entire lexicon of Star Wars. Boba Fett deserves to be up there based on his mirror, him being the mirror for him. You see him, he has the dented helmet, he has gadgets galore, he has the duster cape. Darth Vader himself stops, looks at him, says no disintegrations. There's just so much teeming backstory with him from what could be a character, which admittedly in the original trilogy had 4 lines, but 4 awesome lines. Hiding in the tracking among the slave ship.
As you wish. Well,
Okay, no disintegration, as you wish. Look, he didn't back down for
take him to the cargo hold is an awesome line.
It's an incredible line. Look, if Han Solo, Harrison Ford originally had his wish, Boba Fett would have been responsible for his death. Had it not been for George Lucas, Boba Fett would have killed the original one of the original core 3 in the original series. Boba Fett is deserving of the number 2 spot.
Where do you get the information that Boba Fett was going to kill Han Solo?
Harrison Ford repeatedly asked for it in production. He didn't want to be in the 3rd one. He wanted to die in the sequel.
Okay, I have heard that, but I have not heard the connection to Boba Fett being the one who killed him.
The frozen carbonite was to be it. That was to be his tomb, like a living mausoleum.
So indirectly, Boba Fett would have delivered him to Jabba. Here's my issues. One, first of all, let me do a quick tangent. The best thing George Lucas ever did was not listen to Harrison Ford about what should happen in Star Wars. And the fact that J.J. Abrams or whatever bowed to Harrison Ford's wishes in Episode 7 was a dumb decision. Killing Han Solo in Episode 7. Why even have him in it? I mean, but I will say your whole premise that Boba Fett is a villain is flawed. I don't even think he is a villain.
I don't think so either.
And especially when we get the scenes now added canon from The Mandalorian, he's like a hero. He's not a villain.
I'm not done, my friend. Is Han Solo a hero or is Han Solo a villain?
Ambiguous.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the original series, Han Solo is a hero. He might be a self-motivated, self-interested hero, and in it mainly for himself much of the series, but he's a hero. His biggest enemy is not Darth Vader, is not the Empire writ large. It's Boba Fett. It's Boba Fett and Jabba. Boba Fett is Solo's biggest enemy and threat in the original trilogy. Who does Boba Fett kill in The Mandalorian?
Han Solo's biggest threat is himself, is his drive to continue being a smuggler. That's his biggest threat.
Okay, and who did he run afoul of while smuggling, while being a scruffy nerf herder? Boba Fett, the Hutts. His biggest threat indirectly was smuggling for the Hutts. Come on, Joseph.
But a villain does not go into a life debt or whatever it was in The Mandalorian. Boba Fett's like, I'm still with you until you get Grogu back. That's not a villain.
A deal. He made a deal. He's a man of his word. Just because you're villainous doesn't mean you have to be dishonest too. Look, who does he kill at the end of The Mandalorian? And where does he sit?
Oh, he kills Bib Fortuna, and he sits in Jabba's throne.
Was Jabba a villain?
I think we've established that. He's on our top 5.
Okay, so Boba Fett not only symbolically, but physically takes Jabba's place as crime lord, crime boss, mob head honcho in the entire planet, in that sector of the galaxy as well. Boba Fett might have helped, but Boba Fett was in it for himself. He took out a villainous leader to become the new villainous leader with his side chick as his assassin at large. Boba Fett is a villain. He might not be a dastardly, mustache-twirling villain, but he's definitely an antagonist.
This is actually a good point because I will agree with that. I hadn't thought about that. He is somewhat heroic in The Mandalorian until the very end of the epilogue of that season finale when he becomes presumably the next leader of the criminal underworld. And I'm hoping in the book of Boba Fett we get more of a villainous Boba Fett and not a heroic Boba Fett.
Okay. I will let you have him at your number 2. Okay, my number 2, I'm sticking with Sean's, Emperor Sheev Palpatine. I don't know what else to add on to what's already been said about Emperor Palpatine. He is the ultimate bad guy. I mean, he is the everything evil that happens in all 9 movies, even Rogue One, even Solo, I guess, in a roundabout way, is all because of Sheev Palpatine. There you go. Here's my number 2.
Boo!
Yep.
Look,
Well,
the director's writer's laziness because they couldn't think of another villain shouldn't put him in this vaulted,
Listen,
lofty.
I'm not saying that using him in the sequels was a good idea, but I'm using the cards that I'm dealt, and I guess he's also the villain in 7, 8, 9, as much as I hate to say it.
I think even if he wasn't in 7, 8, 9, he'd be my number 2.
Yeah.
I could completely ignore the sequel trilogy, and he's still, everything we said about him is true.
7, 8, 9, and 1, 2, 3 actually move him further down the list for me.
How does 1, 2, 3?
We got 1, 2, and 3.
Well,
Let's set up his whole campaign.
The prequel series in general, other than Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, didn't really do anything for me.
That's fine. I think Sean and I disagree with you on that. We both love the prequels. This is a very pro-prequel channel.
I know. As your first fan, first subscriber, first like, and first comment, I am well aware. If you read my multitude of other comments, you can see my strong dissent throughout the, lifetime of this channel. It's okay. We can agree to disagree.
Okay, I think it's time now for our number 1s.
I am predicting that we all have consensus on this, that we all have the same person. Except for Joseph.
I actually do have Darth Vader as my number 1. Can I do my honorable mentions? For some reason, I feel like in top 10s, they always do honorable mentions before the number 1. That's where I have my honorable mentions.
Yeah, they do. I should have done that. That's my bad.
So I have 2 honorable mentions. The first one is, notice my background, Watto. He's the one who is very evil. He had 2 slaves, and because of a roll of the dice, and he didn't give up Shmi Skywalker, that ultimately led to Darth Vader's downfall in a roundabout way. So Watto is the reason for Darth Vader. So he's my honorable mention. And then my second one, it's kind of a tie, but I think it actually goes to the guy who fired the laser to kill all the people in the Hosnian system. He murdered billions of people. Also tied with the person who fired the laser of the Death Star. So those are my honorable mentions. But my number 1 is, of course, the man himself, Darth Vader. No disagreements here on this channel. Darth Vader, not only is he super awesome in what he can do with a lightsaber, in his background, in the setup, in the prequels, we get how far he has fallen from grace. But then in episode 6, we see him come back and is redeemed. Nothing beats Darth Vader, in my opinion.
He was so great, Joseph, you had him on your list twice.
That's right. I had Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader.
So, actually, my number 5, I'm going to revise it just to be Darth Sidious in his Force Lightning mode at the end of the original trilogy. Nothing else.
Make fun of me. I'm the co-owner of this channel. I can kick you off anytime I want.
Look, if Star Wars has taught me anything, the fandom is what actually controls this franchise. So it doesn't matter if you're the co-owner, creator, or George Lucas himself. I enjoyed a thing, so I have the right to relentlessly critique and criticize every minute detail.
Shane, I would like to hear your top 5 that you shared with me on the phone a few hours ago.
Oh, my non-serious top 5?
Yes.
Well, first let's talk about Darth Vader.
Let's finish the Darth Vader.
Let's finish Darth Vader. So, for me, when you say that Palpatine is the ultimate evil, the main difference between Palpatine and Vader is nuance. Nuance. Vader has all the traits that Sidious has, pretty much all the power, all the cunning, the ruthless ambition, all that wrapped into one, plus a cooler character design, but not only that, a redemption arc. He has nuance. He wants to have Luke rule beside him as father and son. He tries to bring Luke over to his side, and through that bonding and love with Luke, actually ultimately succumbs to the light side and brings balance to the Force. He has redeeming qualities. All the greatest villains have redeeming qualities. Sidious has none. And that is why, I honestly don't believe a single fan would ever put Sidious above Darth Vader, and it's because of that. Sidious is ultimately an unnuanced character, where Vader, while you might initially think there's nuance there, he force chokes out a space Nazi, but is that really a bad act, killing a space Nazi? He has nuance. He has a redemption arc. That is what separates him, I think, from the rest. Plus, just the visual at the end of Rogue One. It's dark. There's, pressure going off. You hear the lights cut off, the heavy breathing from the rebels. Glorious. Glorious. It mirrors the greatest scene from The Mandalorian. But Darth Vader, I think, should be every Star Wars fan's top villain, best villain. And honestly, top 10 greatest villains ever in American pop culture. Easy. I don't know where you fit there. He definitely merits a place in the top 10 of all greatest villains in Americana.
He's just so iconic. He is the brand of Star Wars,
Yes.
I don't even watch Star Wars can tell you about Darth Vader, lines that Darth Vader's had.
He's on my credit card. That's how iconic he is.
Can you flip that card around, Sean?
I will not. Listen, I agree with both of you. He's also my number one. Easily my number one. There's no question. I'm a little bit annoyed at Joseph that he has him number 1 and number 3 because it makes no sense. But I'll say, just echoing what you both said, the fact that I think the first thing you think of when you think of Star Wars is Darth Vader. Like, he is synonymous with, he's the icon for the whole brand. He's the marketing tool. And he's so iconic. I would say, in my opinion, the greatest cinematic villain in American film history. And you can debate me on that later, because I will say I don't care. I don't agree with you. I think he's the greatest villain.
Merit. It has merit. I'd have to
Greatest villain in cinema history. He only gets better, in my opinion, with the prequels, and that is because I don't consider him Darth Vader to officially start until he murders Mace Windu. And then it is Darth Vader. And so the fact that he murders Mace Windu, he commits the unspeakable evil of murdering children, and we basically see it happen on screen. We never see Palpatine murder little babies. All right? And then in the original trilogy, I just remember every time I watch it, I'm like, this dude is ruthless. He not only is a bad guy, but he will kill the other bad guys who are helping him if they don't help him well enough. He's like, you failed me, I will kill you. You are my subordinate, you're on my side, you're on my team, but you made a little tiny mistake. I'm going to kill you. Okay, next guy. All right, you're next in line, and just know what you just saw me do to that guy, kill him, I literally will do to you with no remorse. Anybody who's on my bad side, I will kill you. Like, there's no bluffing. There's no playing chicken with anybody. He is straight 0 to 60, 0 to 100. I will murder you if you don't do what I say.
Well, there's actually, he does play chicken in his TIE Fighter, but that's a different, he physically plays chicken.
Does he, though?
Flies that. I mean, what do I know? I'm just.
The
Just
point
saying.
is that he is very clearly the best Star Wars villain. I don't think there's any question about it.
No question about it. I'm
You
sorry.
know,
I
I
Now,
feel like Darth Vader, to me, and I know he gets knighted or whatever by Palpatine in Palpatine's room. I get that. But to me, he becomes Darth Vader during his duel with Obi-Wan. To me, is when he becomes Darth Vader. But
after he kills the younglings,
I think he's
After
the fallen
Rose made
Anakin at that point.
there's no difference. The fallen Anakin is Darth Vader.
I get it. We can disagree.
you-
That's the joy of this podcast.
Also, don't let me
you
forget the
line,
other.
Right, Lord Vader. Did that not happen to you, Joseph?
No,
Did
I know the part.
Listen, I forgot to mention the other unspeakable evil that he committed was force choking the mother of his unborn children, like domestic abuse happening. I mean, he runs the gambit. Murder, infanticide, domestic violence. I mean,
Wife
the guy's he's just bad.
Yep.
I would say Darth Vader is George Lucas's single greatest creation of a guy who's created a lot of great, memorable things. Darth Vader is the greatest creation. Second, Indiana Jones. First, Darth Vader.
I agree. That was our top 5 Star Wars villains list. Why don't we all run through rapid fire our list once more? I'll do mine first. I had number 5 Jabba, number 4 Tarkin, number 3 Darth Maul, number 2 Emperor Palpatine, and number 1 Darth Vader, with an honorable mention of Jar Jar Binks. I forgot my honorable mention. Shane?
So I have been swayed by Joseph. My honorable mention is Darth Sidious. My number 5 is the Jedi Council and the whole concept of being a Jedi, because it's kind of Joseph actually did convince me on that. Number 4, Jabba the Hutt, Slug at Large. Number 3 is a tie between Maul and Moff Gideon. Love the Moff, love Maul. Number 2 is, of course, Boba Fett. And number 1, Darth Vader.
Yeah. Okay, my number 5, Jedi Council, Ultimate Baddies. Number 4, Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
My number 3, the Order 66 clones plus Anakin in the Jedi Temple. I know you guys don't like it, but I think the clones is my main part, really. The Order 66 clones.
You spent more time on Anakin.
Okay, and then number 2, Chief Palpatine. Number 1, Darth Vader, with Watto taking in my honorable mention.
It's a good one. I'm surprised none of us had any sequel villains.
I'm not surprised.
What?
Yeah.
Who, Phasma?
Phasma. Hux.
All of them were underutilized. Kylo is the best villain, but then his redemption arc at the end, it's like he never was as bad as Vader. And then he's like so good at the end that I am like, he's not even a villain. He just was an abused child.
Yeah.
He killed his deadbeat dad. How many people who had their dads run out on him want to shank him?
Well, that actually is pretty bad that he killed his own father, but it's, I don't know. I guess there are parallels to Vader too, because Vader also had a very traumatic upbringing. But still, I don't think Kylo's not in the conversation for me. I do want to hear, Shane, what your original list was that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but I thought was very humorous.
So Joseph said I wasn't allowed to bring this list or an air horn on, So just for the listeners, for you, the fan.
No,
I just want to.
no air horns. You called me up and said, how much air horn is too much air horn? And I said, any amount of air horn. But then you gave me your top 5 list, and I said, Shane, save that for the phone call because that's gold. That's what we want on this channel.
So my actual top 5, originally it was all 5 Boba Fett, but I wasn't allowed to do that. So my second top 5 was number 5, best villain in Star Wars franchise, Gina Carano. Turned out
She's canceled.
horrible person.
Yeah.
I don't know. So Gina Carano is number 5. Number 4.
Hey, just so you guys know, never compare your own plight to that of the Jews in the Holocaust, okay?
Unless you're in fact either Muslim. Yeah, unless your country is systematically committing genocide against you, you might want to stay away from those comparisons. Number 4 is the combo tag team of ineptitude themselves, Finn and Rose. Number 4. Riddle me this, dads of Dagobah. Animal racehorses, bad, must free them. Child slaves, okay, leave them, forget those kids. Finn and Rose, number 4, they're okay with child slavery, not okay with I guess animal cruelty. I mean, we have racehorses too, so should those all be freed? I don't know. It's like freeing those and then keeping the stable boys in chains forever and feeding them scraps and letting them fight over it. But whatever. Number 3, the fans of Star Wars themselves are the greatest villains. The number 3 greatest villain. The Phantom Menace is real. I felt that Rose, while deserving of hate, didn't get the right amount of hate for the right reasons. Her thing against child slavery, she probably got hate for that. That's not what she got hate for. And also, they shamed the franchise into putting J.J. Abrams back, and that segues perfectly into my number 2. Rian Johnson, followed up by my number 1. J.J. Abrams are the number 1 greatest villains of the Star Wars franchise. Hey guys, we can't think of a new villain, so let's take this silver shining one, and now they're Sidious. Oh hey, we need a redemption arc for Kylo. Who's a bad guy? It's Sidious. Who's Snoke? Hey guys, spoiler alert, it's also Sidious. They rehashed every story beat, made it worse, pulled it off more ineptly, and did more damage to the franchise than any other. What, Joseph? This is my honorable mention.
All of those things you said are J.J. Abrams only. Rian Johnson did not create any of those story arcs.
Hold on. What am I doing, Joseph? I'm breathing in space while using the Force to pull myself to a destroyed cruiser.
Hey,
Really?
Dave Filoni came up with that in Star Wars Rebels. Kanan does that.
Star Wars Rebels is a cartoon for children, not a billion-dollar blockbuster flagship of the franchise, Joseph. Look, there's nothing.
Back to Hogwarts is the greatest scene in all of Star Wars.
No.
This is fantastic.
There's a reason why they put all potential projects other than The Mandalorian on pause. They should find the current creator, director, and writer of The Mandalorian, back up the truck to his house and just dump money on him and let him make whatever he wants. Jon Favreau should be the single head honcho in every creative direction, story arc, story beat, redemption, anything going forward for the entire franchise after the stink that Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams left on the rotting, decaying corpse that was already killed and left by George Lucas when left alone for the prequel series. They are the number 1 and number 2 greatest villains in Star Wars history.
George Lucas didn't make your list.
Is he worse than any of those other 5? He's probably an honorable mention on my list.
Listen, I thought that was very funny. Take off Rian Johnson, and I agree with you. Rian Johnson is the most heroic person in Star Wars.
Can't wait for that trilogy.
Let us know if you think Shane should be brought back for another episode of Dance of Dagobah. Also, leave a comment about your top 5 villains. We'd love to hear it. Please make sure it's canon. We don't want to hear any of that mumbo-jumbo Thrawn stuff. Oh, wait. I guess Thrawn is now canon, but
The books are amazing. Read the books, Joseph. Give it a chance.
I've read the books, but they're not canon.
No, the new trilogy is.
I have read the. Okay, yes, I have read those, but I'm just not getting the same sense that I got from the.
You have a Star Wars fan channel? Come on, Joseph.
I told you I read the books. What more do you want from me?
Hey, we appreciate it, everybody. Like the video. If we get more than 10,000 likes, we'll invite Shane back on. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you want to see more videos like this. I do think a top 5 heroes video would be interesting because it's not as cut and dry to me. It's not as easy with the heroes.
I thought that we would have much consensus.
Yeah. But until next time, thanks for watching, everybody. We have spoken.
This is the way.
And we'll see you next time on Dads of Dagobah. Bye.
See ya.